Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6:30 p.m. and a quorum of members is present. So the meeting of the Board of Education of the School District of New Berlin is called to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Crosby? Mr. David?
Here.
Mr. Kugler?
Here.
Mr. Kurth?
Here.
Ms. Manley?
Here.
Mr. Maxey?
Here.
Mr. Nickerson?
Mrs. Crosby did notify me that she was not feeling well, would not be here this evening. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session.
Mr. President, I move to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, 1C, E, and F of the Wisconsin statutes to consider C, employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the Board of Education has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties and the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. And F, financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personal problems, or the investigation of charges against specific persons which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations. Board will discuss and possibly take action on A, the approval of closed session minutes of September 28th, 2015. B, employment, performance, compensation matters pertaining to staff. C, negotiation strategies. First time I didn't flub something up.
Second. Way to go, Jeff.
Motion by Mr. Kurth, second by Mrs. Manley. Please call the roll.
Mr. David?
Yes.
Mr. Kugler? Yes. Mr. Kurth? Yes. Ms. Manley?
Yes.
Mr. Maxey?
Yes.
Mr. Nickerson?
Motion carries. We'll be adjourning to closed session, returning to open session around 7 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, we are returning from closed session to open session. In recognition of the serious and important nature of our efforts here, we will join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now for those who wish to prepare for the meeting, we will have a moment of silence. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. Prior to this meeting, notice was given to the public last Friday by posting the agenda at each district school, the district office, and the city library. The agenda was also posted on the district website. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Journal Sentinel, the Waukesha Freeman, and the New Berlin Now, all of which have filed requests for all public notices. Diane, I'm assuming we don't have any requests for privilege of the floor? And I do not have a president's message this evening, so we'll move on to the administrative team report.
So I'd like to invite Eileen Depka to come up and talk to you about our new assessments, as well as Amanda Bezirkowitz, who will be talking to you about our Student Services Department and just a general update from them. We'll start with Eileen.
Good evening. I just want to spend a few minutes talking to you about the Wisconsin Forward, the new Wisconsin Forward test, and a little bit about some of the things that are the same and some of the things that are different. So first, the new state test for grades 3 through 8 is called Wisconsin Forward. It replaces the Badger exam, you'll remember from last year. That was done as a result of some of the budgetary issues that came up in the state, and there was a request that assessment be changed and given to a new company. So it will also be an online assessment, just like the last one was, and it will be developed in part by educators in Wisconsin. I'm not sure yet. I'm trying to find out what kind of involvement educators can have to see if we can have some involvement on that test. So that's something that remains to be seen, but I am contacting the state about that. So beginning in spring of this year, Wisconsin Forward will be what students take. WKCE is a thing of the past. For the last 15 years, WKCE was something that was given in fall. And originally it was reading all of the subjects. Last year it was science and social studies only. This year it was discontinued. Science will be part of the Wisconsin Forward exam. That is a subject that needs to be tested by federal legislation. Social studies is something that's still being looked at. That's state legislation. So we still will have, during the same Wisconsin Forward window, some type of a social studies test, but we're not sure who will be creating that test yet. So that's pretty much what that says. Aspire, WorkKeys, and ACT will continue to be tested at 9, 10, and 11. Aspire at 9 and 10. And WorkKeys and ACT at grade 11. The company who's creating this test, I was doing some research on them. They're the Data Recognition Corporation, much smaller than the company that did last year's testing. So where they have approximately 50 full-time employees, 500 full-time employees. The last company had about 2,700. Where they have about 9 offices. The other company had 180 test sites around the world. 9,000 test sites in 180 countries. So we're going to a much smaller assessment company. They did, however, just purchase a large bank of the questions from McGraw-Hill Corporation that has done a lot of assessments in the past, including the previous WKCE and the Terra Nova testing, if you've ever heard of them. I don't know if small makes a difference. I don't know if that's good or bad. It might mean that we'll get more individualized service. I think it's going to be a growing company, and it's going to grow quite quickly out of necessity. Let's see. They do have testing sites right now in many of the Midwest states. They also have Pennsylvania, and I read today that Nevada is also thinking of giving them a $51 million the contract in order to do state testing in Nevada as well. Any additional information? The state, I think, learned a lot from the Badger assessment. Some of the difficulties that took place last year in technology, I think they learned that they need to have their things in place much earlier. They need to know what they're doing, and they need to have the districts know what they need as far as technology. They feel they're in a much better place than last year, and they feel that this new test will benefit from what they learned through the Badger assessment. The other, I think, good news is that the Wisconsin Forward exam should be shorter and for the state less costly. The district doesn't pay anything out of pocket for the assessment. However, in manpower, it does take a lot of time to administer and set up the assessments. So that is pretty much an update on the Wisconsin Forward exam. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you.
I just have one question, because it's changing. I mean, are we gonna still be able to see like progression, or do you see like the first year it'll kind of be a question and then it'll take the next year?
They've been telling us that they will build a bridge between the assessments. Okay. As of yet, they haven't done that between WKCE and Badger. That doesn't mean they won't. I think that if anything, we can look at the data and see if it's at all comparable, but I don't know that we'll ever be able to really say, yes, this is an exact match for previous assessments. So in some cases, it is like starting over again.
Okay, and I know you're so good about the communication that goes along with it, but if that can be emphasized so parents don't wonder exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thanks for the update.
I just want to encourage you to try to be a part of the team that develops this if they will allow you, and if you need help from us to write legislators and the state DPI on your behalf, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we do have, Eileen and several of our administrators are on several task forces or teams
Steering
as we look to
committees.
develop things. This is definitely one that we kind of want to keep our, hand in. Eileen's also part of an association with, it's the WASCD. Mm-hmm. And so she's on that board as well. And so we're able to keep a pretty good pulse on how things are handled. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with DPI, you never know how it'll come out, but we will do our best to try and support the efforts kind of like we are in other areas, and we'll definitely keep you posted.
The DPI didn't select this company either. It was another committee that was gathered by the state in order to go through the RFP process and select the committee, or select the assessment group that they selected, which I found interesting.
Thank you for the clarification.
What committee was that?
I have to find the name for you. I can't remember offhand, but I can send that to you.
I'd like to find out what the committee, I mean, if this is being systematically distributed throughout the state, I'd like to know who's making that decision. That would be great.
Okay, it was from the state, but I will find the exact name of the committee for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have Amanda Mazurkowitz, who is with the Student Services Department, with kind of a few updates of where things are as it relates to student services.
Good evening. So like Mr. Garza just said, I'm here to give you a brief update on behalf of Student Services on some of the projects that we are working on so far this year. And I want to start by just grounding us in, this slide has been used in a number of presentations so far this year, including with all of our new teachers who were brought in during their induction week at the end of the summer, and then in various other professional learning opportunities we've had throughout the school year this year. We really are trying to make a concerted effort to inform all of our staff and administrators that we really believe that all students belong to all teachers in our district. We're trying to move from having special education so isolated as it has been in the past, and I think we talked a little bit about that last year, but we're really trying to push that even more forward this year. And really what that means is that we believe that through the vision of our graduate, having a more integrated service delivery model for special education than many other districts around us have, and for creating purposeful learning for all students, our students are better able to meet their post-secondary outcomes, even thinking about that starting in kindergarten. So some of our current areas of focus this year, again, is that learning for all. You're going to see that as a common theme throughout all of our professional learning for staff on our monthly PL days, as well as embedded in building level work that we're doing with the principals and with teams of teachers. A focus with that is really through differentiation and collaborative planning efforts. Another update for you is we continue to have more families affected by our student family assistance program now that we're doing it in-house as compared to when we were using Aurora for that. Though the primary focus is on students and their families, Mary Jane Whitty has also had the opportunity to connect with several staff members on some issues, so that's been really helpful to have that resource at our disposal. As you know, we also have been integrating more technology with the rollout of our one-to-one Chromebooks for some of our secondary students, and with that has come more assistive technology for our students with disabilities. And one area in particular is we've issued already 137 licenses for an application called Google Read and Write, which essentially is a text-to-speech software for students who need that. Though certainly we've used 137 licenses for special education, that is an application that we will make available to general education students as it's appropriate for them too. That last bullet here talks about our transfer in students. We have had an inordinate number of transfer in students throughout the summer into our special education program here. Typically a district our size might see 5 to 7 transfers in within a summer, meaning students that move in. This year we had about 30. And so with that, it was mainly impacted at our elementary level, 3 buildings in particular, Elmwood, Poplar Creek, and Orchard Lane. So with that, we are hiring an additional special education teacher at each of those 3 buildings to help meet the needs of the students there. Also, we have maintained or increased actually a focus on professional learning for our special education assistants. We've realized that they have a really hard job in the work that they do with our students, and they're invaluable to our students and to our staff. And so we have issued every single special education assistant in our district, and we have about 35, a Chromebook. And we also have given them training in some online learning modules that they'll be participating in throughout the school year. And then also we are developing an evaluation rubric tool for them so that they can be evaluated by their building principal.
Amanda, if I could interrupt. If any of you are aware of anybody that you believe could work with students with disabilities within the model that we've provided, we're always in need of personnel. It's a great paying job with lots of support. But what we're finding is that that's a very difficult position to fill. So if you know of anybody that has an interest, again, I don't want to quote what the hourly wage is, but it's a competitive wage. Joan, roughly?
It starts at $14.70, and with degree it's $17.50.
Are you talking about a special education teacher or assistant?
Assistant.
Assistant Cs.
Well, and at the same time, token, quality special education teachers also. We're also always typically in need, obviously, we're looking for quality people now. But it's for some reason, we just have difficulty finding quality people to fill those vacancies, if we can even fill the vacancy. So please consider that and sharing that. And we are doing our best to beat the bushes and be proactive, but at the same time, if you know of anybody networking-wise, please pass that along.
And certainly that's why we're trying to increase the level of support we're giving them for their professional learning, because we recognize how difficult of a job it is, and we want to retain the quality assistance that we do have. We're also right now engaged in our self-assessment with DPI every 5 years. We have a procedural self-assessment for compliance purposes, And we've had a team of teachers and our Director of Student Services and me combing through many, over 100 IEPs and evaluations to look for certain compliance features to that. And with that, we are going to have some corrective actions in terms of fixing those errors. But the more proactive thing that's going to come from that is that we will develop some more focused trainings for our special education teachers and our administrators who serve as LEA representatives on those IEP teams so that we can be more proactive and have fewer of those errors in the future. And then lastly, we have adopted a new mathematics resource and new ELA resource for students with significant disabilities. And that's really important so that they can still have resources that are aligned to the same quality instruction that their typically developing peers are having within the classroom. And that's really it right now for student services in terms of our current initiatives. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, my question is about those two resources that you spoke of at the end there. For example, with the mathematics, do we also have online resources for those students in conjunction with the textbooks? Because I know that for myself and my kids, being able to go online with my kids at home is so helpful.
Yes, they both do. The unique program is going to have more of an online component for the teachers to access things, and it links a lot to Smartboard lessons, different interactive things. But certainly, even though our students with significant disabilities do not take the MAP assessment, they have an alternate assessment that's aligned to standards that they're working towards, that we've developed in our district. But they still have access to Compass and some of those other tools as well, and we can design lessons around that.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move to Hannah's update, I did want to share with you that the Department of Administration was the group that came up with the vendor for the testing. Department of Administration. Which department? We keep looking at that, but which department?
The Department of Administration.
They
Governor's
have like
office.
30 departments, so I'm not sure which one.
Not sure.
Right.
I can try to find out.
How ironic that the department has 30 departments. Anyway, with that, we'll hand it over to Hannah to give you updates of things happening here at New Berlin West.
Hi, everyone. Oh, my goodness. Of course, the first month and a half is extremely busy at New Berlin West. We had our homecoming week 3 weeks ago. That includes events like our annual bonfire, our powder puff game where the seniors ruled again, and our football game. This year, we were lucky enough to play our rivals, New Berlin Eisenhower, and I think the most exciting part of the week was all of us sitting on our phones trying to send in the votes. The entire day, there was a girl who had 5 phones out and was just sending the votes to get the game on TV for an hour during her study hall. It was an extremely exciting game. Didn't end the way New Berlin West wanted, but Ike is playing a great season this year, and it was great to see them play. Our school showed a lot of spirit, and everyone was in blue and gold on that Friday. Also, our girls' tennis team has won conference. This is the first time they've done so since 1986. They also sent 3 girls to sectionals, which is extremely exciting, and we're all really proud of them. We wanted to give you an update on how the students are feeling about the new schedule. I think we all personally love it, to be honest. There are a lot of new things, whether it is the 6 classes a day compared to having 8, the flex time, or personally my favorite, having a snack bar in the cafeteria or in the library over there. That's the best. Everyone is really having positive attitudes about it. I mean, I've walked into the couple wrong classrooms, but everyone kind of just laughs it off, and we're all really, we're working on it, and we're all getting really excited because it's really wonderful to have a refreshing schedule that isn't kind of robotic. Also, we all love flex time because we don't have meetings anymore in the morning. Getting here at 6:45 was not pretty for anyone. We're able to study, hang out with friends, or nap in our cars. I like the napping. And also, everyone is just really looking forward to continuing this all year. I'd also like to mention 3 new events that are upcoming for New Berlin West this upcoming month. This Wednesday, we have our talent show. I think Mr. Garza will be there, I believe.
I'm not talented. Mr. Judge.
It is ran by our forensics team, and it's our biggest fundraiser of the year, and everyone there is extremely talented. We have singers, dancers, we have a girl who does ballet, and a cello player as well, and he is extremely talented. Also, we have our Pink Out game this Friday. This is a new tradition that we started last year at New Berlin West. It's ran by the National Honor Society. We fundraised over $1,000 last year, and I think that's pretty impressive for our first year of ever doing it. So we're hoping to continue that tradition this Friday, and I hope you guys would all come out to support it. It's at our football game, our last home game of the year as well. And also, we have a new tradition as well. We're going to have a run walk for our Club Unify. This will be on November 7th at 9 a.m. Club Unify is a club where a lot of our athletes work together with our foundation students, where we're trying to break down borders and get rid of labels. This run walk is supposed to kind of symbolize us all working together, and sports is a great way to do so. So that's a new tradition ran by our cross-country team. That'll be on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Hannah?
Well, the flex time, I think. So are a lot of students going to see teachers or getting assistance? I know you kind of touched base on some of the other activities, but are a lot of them benefiting too?
Yeah, actually it's really helpful because it works as a study hall, definitely because of the amount of time that we have. I know teachers have sessions if you're struggling that they kind of make it like you should come in. We have like test corrections during it. A lot of teachers are very open. I mean, there's teachers who have kids in each room if you walk around school. And also there's so many kids that are working here and are able to use computers during the entire period. I know that I don't know what I would do without flex time now that we have it, so it's wonderful.
Good feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items that should be pulled out for separate consideration? Hearing none, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. President, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. David, second by Mr. Kurth. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. This brings us to our regular agenda. The first item is discussion with possible approval of the 2016 Board of Education meeting dates.
So per board policy, the board meets on the second and fourth Mondays with the following exceptions for the upcoming calendar year, which is we're looking to have just one meeting in March, which would be on March 14th. Mainly due to spring break. Then in May, because of Memorial Day, we usually have it then the following, or actually it'd be the previous week. So that's why we moved that. As has been past practice, we only have one meeting in July. So that's something that we're just kind of affirming with the board that we still want to continue that. And then as well as December, that you would meet the third Monday in December prior to the winter break. So really, we're seeking your approval so that we know what your calendar will be for the upcoming calendar year. Yes.
Mr. Garza, I see that in April, there's only one meeting. There's two on there.
There's two.
11th and the 25th. Oh, never mind.
There's one in March.
Got it.
And again, we have had one in April only because of the spring break in the past. So we're seeking your approval to move forward for planning purposes.
Mr. President, move to approve the 2016 meeting dates as presented.
Motion by Mrs. Manley, second by Mr. Kurth. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a first read of revision to policy 5115, the course options program. As is our tradition, we take no action on first reads. So Mr. Garza, if you can tee that up, and then between this meeting and next, any questions that you have, obviously voice them this evening or between now and that next meeting.
Yeah, so the reason why we have the course options program in the first place is because this program, per the legislative committees, got rid of the part-time open enrollment and instituted course options, which allows students, which we think is actually very good for kids because it allows them to take courses outside of their regular school, which it could be, in some cases, it could be post-secondary institutions, and in other cases, for example, we have students coming in over the course of the summer or even to take advantage of some of the other courses that we have during the school year for our courses, and vice versa. So if we don't offer something, kids can take these options elsewhere. Originally, so things get really complicated when the legislative session gets rolling and the governor's budget is proposed. And originally, they were looking at getting rid of course options altogether. And that was actually what was initially proposed. We did not like that, and we shared that with our local legislators, and in fact also the governor's office, when we had a meeting to discuss something else, to kind of talk about this. And nonetheless, politics being politics, it ended up getting thrown back into the budget, but with some questions that, when you apply practicality pieces to things that have been approved in a budget, things like the whole notion of what will costs be to parents, and or even for us, for example, because according to this, if we have a student that's free and reduced lunch, we actually absorb that cost ourselves. But the dilemma is, in some cases, it's up to the individual parent and or us as, on behalf of those students, to either negotiate or find out what that additional cost may be as they take that course. That's not exactly how we would have drawn it up, but it is kind of what we're dealing with, and we are getting interpretations from varying legislators and from the governor's office around this. I don't think this is a widespread issue, because I'm not sure if many people are even aware of the course options program. We are very well aware, because we want to be able to provide options for our kids and our families, that if we don't offer something, here's where you can get it, or if you don't offer it in your school district, come on in and take it here with us, which is what we think is pretty important. Nonetheless, we have to make the updates based off of the changes made at the legislative level. And so at the next meeting, we'll be recommending you approve the policy as presented, as again, the result of these changes that have been made at the state level. Okay. Please note that Ray Cross, president of the UW system, will be here Friday, as long as with Senate President Lozick will be here too, and we'll be discussing this with them at that time as well.
All right. Any questions for Joe or the team on this?
No, just what Joe touched base on. I think that's the big question mark, and the better we can understand if it's any significant changes, but you're already all over that, so thank you.
Great. All right, thank you, Joe. Anyone has any questions or comments about the program or the change in the policy, please get those to Joe and his team before next week. Are there items from closed session?
Yes, my apologies. I move to approve the employment services report as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Manley, second by Mr. David. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is future meetings and dates. This Thursday, October 15th, between 1 and 3, is New Berlin West Career Day. I encourage all board members, if they have the opportunity, to come take part in that, witness it, see how that event impacts. And I look forward, Anna, to your report on that and how well it went and if it helped you at all. I know as a senior, it may not have as much impact as it it did last year, but
Actually, they've added a couple sessions with scholarship and funding for seniors, which I'm really excited to be a part of. So
Oh, good.
I'm very excited for Career Day, actually.
great. Our next board meeting will be on Monday, October 26th, here in the Idea Center. Eisenhower will be also hosting a Career Day, and that is on October 29th, again between 1 and 3. And hopefully we can make it to that as well. And then Monday, November 9th, we hope to hold that board meeting at Eisenhower in the new Commons. And as Joe mentioned before, this Friday, UW Assistant President Ray Cross will be here doing a site visit. So, and that is in this building, correct, Joe? The site visit here or at Ike? All right, thank you. And the time was 12:30 to 3, right? Okay, great. Motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. This meeting is adjourned.